Okay, slightly different one, not a coaching session, just wanted to do like a little interview with you. So Ben has been learning embodiment with me just a few months, right? We knew each other before that, but you've been doing online course, which was what, 2 or 3 months?
Yeah,
just under 3 months, and then you just did a 4-day face-to-face residential intensive learning like the basics of embodiment skills. Yeah. You're coming from mostly a therapy background, but you also have the martial arts. Yeah. No coaching before that?
No coaching.
Okay. Yeah. So what are you learning?
But it's funny, small thing, I feel like I've been learning with you since we first rolled 10 years ago, because you pretty much blew my door into embodiment. So I followed that for a long time.
Online and saw videos.
Done a bit of video courses here or there. It's been a real circle. It's kind of come now into contact.
Yeah.
It's been going on for a long time. A lot around changing state, you know, the how rather than the why. As you might have said it around therapy.
Therapy's the why, right? Like, where does this come from? The parents,
whatever, and where from, perhaps. And this is kind of how it is, and that's a really nice distinction.
State changing, you mentioned there.
State changing, essentially, yeah, with the centering practices, the EYP, you know, really archetypally deep postures to kind of like get into something quite quickly, but in a very embodied way. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff that's new. You know, it's almost like here's the tools of embodiment work and coaching that are all essentially new to me.
And some stuff's the same, right? Like the power of relationship and listening, deep listening. That's in therapy as well. So there's a crossover. And then the new stuff more about like state shifting, working with the body. I mean, anything that stood out for you, kind of like is particularly interesting. I mean, just be real, be genuine.
Yeah. I mean, you know, really, I could say a lot. This centering, I think, is profoundly different. Having tried to actually coach it, I think that's the
now you're starting to coach it.
I would say when I did it myself, I could still get to the point where I go, is it really working? Is that really doing something for me?
Okay.
And now having coached it and really kind of had to lead it a little differently, got a different kind of like organisation for it myself. I'm like, wow. Just now doing it when I was kind of waiting, I was just like, all right. It's going to centre to just so I can be actually available here today. I'm going to do that. And I was like, oh, it feels great. I was almost like, this feels pleasurable.
Yeah, why not? Enjoy pleasure.
To just find a ground again. So that's a pretty wicked tool.
Okay, great. Yeah, I've got clients now that just like every coaching session or therapy I do centering straight away, always, you know, like just becomes like a go-to. And we've done a lot of stuff with me on consent and calibration, right? Like we just did the choking video, but actually full consent and full calibration, because for both of us, that's not an extreme stimulus, right?
No, that's like,
so it's an example of, so anything on consent and calibration, just because this is like key ethical stuff we're doing the whole time.
Well, those things run right through the heart therapy as well, but I just said that there's no drop off. It's exactly the same kind of sense of like, here's how important it is for us to both be agreeing and going into like what it is that we're doing, and particularly around calibration of just like, where can we take it up, and is that still consent? Or do we still consent?
Do I have to recheck the consent for this?
And just that kind of, then there's this horizontalization, like we're doing this together, like you know, it's not like I'm just going to do this and you're going to be part of this. It's like we're doing this together. Collaboration,
sort of like it's like team together, isn't it? That's the sort of vibe, like, okay, we're working on this together as a alliance, I guess they call it in therapy, right? Therapeutic alliance.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about the community aspect? Because you've been learning not just with me, but also with Vilya and Rachel and Karin, like all the different international teachers, Masha, Christina, like how has that been, and learning with all these other really cool peers? There's nice people in your group.
Difference. That's the main thing. Do you know what I mean? It's like I get your vibe and I like that vibe, and that's probably why a lot of people, maybe even myself, come in there.
Sure, they want a bit of that.
Authority angle, I'm coming in this prior relationship angle, and I'm wanting to like kind of play with all of that a bit more, you know, just kind of throw things up in the air. But then there's like these other teachers you meet within the course that just can represent other figures, maybe in the family or something like that. You know, you've got
part of that.
Rachel with the
she's nice Auntie Rachel.
Yeah, sometimes steps into my maternal kind of Rachel. Make sure that everyone's protected. That's a nice vibe, and you've got you know, a number of other figures there that offer something different in their own embodiment.
Different way of doing it, right? And we're trying to give you the principles of embodiment, not so people could watch these videos and just kind of like try and impersonate my moves. You know what I mean? Like, okay, you've got to do this shape or this form. And I would say that was a mistake. Does that make sense? Because it's like we're trying to lead you to the Ben flavoured way of doing it. Because you can take a bit from Rachel, a bit from Vilya, a bit from me, a bit from Masha, and then you'll find your own style. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's in a lot of ways, it's again, therapy training quite similar.
Similar.
Like,
you find your own style when you had different teachers.
And you're wanting to have an integrative you.
Because you're integrative therapists, right? Because
Yeah,
there's fanboy therapists too, right? They're
Absolutely.
like, CBT is everything, or Jungian is everything.
Yeah, don't get me started on it. I couldn't have gone to your course without feeling that there was a multi-perspective kind of vibe about it. And I'm not going to be like put into the shoe that
learn from the great guru. Fucking hell, Ben. Fucking hell. All right, so no gurus. That's one of our things. Creativity is one of our things. Like I did things today I've never done before.
Yeah.
You know, this shape that we did earlier, never done that before.
Yeah.
I did one earlier where this guy was pushing me out of the way. People will see that on the video, never done that before. So it's like just constantly creative, generative, what's in the moment, feeling into the moment, what are the principles? Because I'm actually only working with a few principles in all these videos. Yeah. It's like, you know, we're doing exaggeration and contrast, we're doing distinctions, we're doing awareness and choice, you know, we're doing all the stuff that you're learning. So any advice for learning embodiment? Now you're sort of, because you're halfway through the journey now, so any advice on learning it?
Well, I think you've got to get involved, don't you? You've got to get involved in some kind of community there. We're talking about the smallest, some sort of family of some sorts, but it's finding a place for that, because it's all well and good like taking snaps off YouTube or doing whatever you want to do.
People watch a video and it's like, right now I know how to do it.
Yeah, and finding a practice as well, which is a big part
personal
of
practice.
You know, finding a personal practice to do that. I'd say that's where mine started. That's the only reason I was on your course, is because I'd done around 10 years of jiu-jitsu.
Wow, 10 years now. It was a while back I was training with you.
It's like that's been, if anything, I'm trying to unpack the learning that's gone on there that has been difficult.
You've had an unconscious learning around power and relationships and sensitivity, but it hasn't necessarily articulated or transferred, right?
Absolutely.
Someone could do a lot of yoga, a lot of dance, and it's not necessarily transferring.
I would say that's the main thing. It's like not all of it has transferred, and I've been trying to find ways to articulate it and you know, draw it out into more relational.
And you'd have to reinvent the wheel, wouldn't you, as well? You'd have to totally reinvent the wheel if you tried to do that yourself. You're a clever guy, you're a therapist, but you'd have to go, okay, how do I get the jiu-jitsu? And we're just going to give you models for that.
And do it, and put emphasis there as well. It's like a lot of intention,
So, okay, so key things, we haven't really, you know, this video package is being offered mostly just as like examples of coaching. It's not a whole course.
Right.
So like, unlike FAIR or EFC, this sounds like a sales video, it wasn't meant to be. But we definitely would encourage people to get some structure behind it. You know, it could be with Paul Linden, Stuart Heller, Richard Strozzi Heckler, Wendy Palmer, there's Ginny Whitelaw, Dylan Newcomb. These are all people I recommend, so I don't want this to feel like I'm just pushing my stuff. But get some structure around it, get some community around it, and get a personal practice, right? Like, people are watching these and they go, oh, how did Mark feel that? Or how did Mark improvise? Well, I've done improv. Yeah, how did Mark feel? He's like, well, I've been meditating a lot. You know, how does he do the relational stuff? Well, I've done Aikido a lot. So it's like those skills I've built through my personal practice, which then, you know, come out in the coaching, whereas like one session today, I just intuitively went, let's not go there. But that's from years of other practices of being present to my body, right? So I really recommend anyone watching this, you know, start from that basis of your personal practice rather than just the techniques that you can take the techniques from YouTube really easily, but this is, I think, a bit deeper as your own practice, right?
Yeah, it almost feels like, I was just thinking about then, like with all of the practice is so deep, but what you offer with the EFC or anything else is kind of like the language, the verbal language. It's kind of like, there's that stuff. How do you actually know it, or kind of be able to speak of it in some bodily way or verbal way, and it feels like that gives you a place to do that.
We always say, if you're brown belt in an embodiment, you know, I'm the black belt, it's often say the white belts learn better from the brown belts than the black belts. So is there anything I'm sort of missing or that I take for granted or that is sort of maybe obvious to me but is worth saying, do you think? People might...
I don't know. First thing that's coming to mind is that you're so much nicer in person than sometimes people get on the internet.
On the internet,
people get that. Like, oh man, you know, it was really a pleasure to spend time with you on the residential. It was, you know what I mean? It was like, oh.
Okay, Ben, thank you very much. Pleasure. Cheers.